Since October 7th, in Israel, we are facing a totally new reality, a very, very difficult reality, and we are finding ourselves not only dealing with tragedy, but immersed in tragedy. The government of Israel, leaders of this country have been facing very, very difficult questions from the outset. With more than 200 men, women, and children taken hostage in Gaza, and at the same time, a clear need to defeat Hamas, who get rid of any kind of terrorist activity, terrorist infrastructure, terrorists in Gaza that can threaten us, that can attack us in this way or worse again. Israel has had to balance this need to, on the one hand, find ways to release our hostages, bring them home, and at the same time to pursue the war against Hamas. The government took the decision from the beginning to attack Gaza by air, ultimately moving on to a ground maneuvers and a ground battle. And it's clear that Hamas had no interest in dealing or offering any kind of a deal with regard to the return of the hostages. Only after the northern part of Gaza was significantly destroyed did Hamas show an interest to enter in some kind of serious negotiations. And as a result of those negotiations, close to 100 hostages were released, mostly women and children. Towards the end of, and in return, Israel did a temporary pause in the fighting. At the end of that period of time, the last couple of days of that pause, Hamas started playing games with Israel, playing with the deadlines, playing with the terms, releasing fewer people than they had agreed to. Finally, when it became clear on Thursday night that Hamas had totally breached its obligations and that there were not going to be at this point any further releases of hostages, on Friday morning, Israel began the war again. And we started with bombings. Over the weekend, it became more intensified with ground fighting, primarily in the north. Israel is now preparing to attack Khan Yunis. Khan Yunis is a town to the south of Gaza City. And actually, I remember Khan Yunis because in the old days, when we used to go visit the Jewish communities in Gush Katif at the southern edge of Gaza, we would even drive through Khan Yunis. It was never a friendly place, let me tell you. Today, however, it's considered one of the centers of Hamas activities. Now, what exactly happened? In the north, Israel gave ample warning to the people living in the north to leave and move to the south so that they could avoid the fighting. About 1 million people from Gaza, Palestinians from Gaza, moved to the southern edge of Gaza and enabled the IDF to attack both from the air and from the ground, knowing that most of the civilians had actually left. Now we are about to continue. Of course, we still know that there's quite a lot of ability of Hamas. We know for a fact, we saw pictures when Hamas released some of the hostages. Some of those releases took place in the north of Gaza, and we saw Hamas people there gathering, people lining the streets and cheering on Hamas, and this was in the north. So we do know we have not crippled the north. We have wrought serious damage, but there's still quite a lot of work to do before we can say we've completely defeated, captured, taken over, whatever, neutralized the danger that's coming from the north of Gaza. But now we have to start working in the south. And what has happened is that now all of a sudden, as the war moves on, we are suddenly getting more and more pressure from the international community, and particularly from the United States, which of course is our greatest ally. It's the very same country that has moved very significant aircraft carriers into the Mediterranean, very close to Israel, has provided us with rearmaments, etc. But at the same time, they are putting pressure and they're saying, take it slow. and you cannot fight for so long. Now, as one commentator put it recently, he said that the Americans are basically telling us to do three things. They're saying, get rid of Hamas, don't move any of the civilian population in the south of Gaza, and don't harm any civilians. And then he looks at the camera and he says, now, you can't possibly do all three. And that's true. And it's something that makes us quite puzzled when we listen to the Americans, because at the same time, when we say we have to move the population so that we can bomb the Hamas, otherwise we kill civilians. You can't do both. And if you think you're going to try to get rid of Hamas, you've got to have to bomb, you have to attack, you have to send in your army, your tanks, etc. And Netanyahu came out just, yesterday saying that while we are in very close conversation with the United States, there are things we don't agree on. And at the end of the day, we in Israel, the government of Israel, are the ones who are making the decisions. It is, we have to do what we need to do to protect our own civilians. Now, this is a perspective that I think that is very important for you to have as to what's going in Israel today. On the one hand, we are moving forward in this fight. We are determined to destroy Hamas and to remove the threat that is on Israel's western border in the south. Okay, now the next step is going to be the threat in the north. We have a very serious threat, probably more serious than Hamas, through Hezbollah in Lebanon. Right now, we have thousands of people from the north, in addition to all these people in the south who have been evacuated because it's too dangerous for them to be there. Our third front is here in Judea and Samaria, where it's also extremely dangerous, although here at least we have the IDF in the Arab areas, in control and arresting terrorists on a daily basis. What happened on October 7th was horrific. It was tragic. It was horrible, but it was also a wake-up call for all of us in Israel. If until now there were people within Israel that said Hamas or the Palestinian terrorism in general is a nuisance, is a danger, but it's not an existential danger, I think today we can safely say that the terrorism that surrounds us and that is within us is an existential danger to Israel. And therefore, we need to take the decisions to do what we need to do to keep our people safe and to bring Israel to a place where it's safer and it is in a position of victory, sustained victory over its enemies. All of us have children, spouses, grandchildren who are right now on the front lines. And everyone is unified in our desire to see the victory, even at the expense of our own children and our own family members. We are praying, we are worried. I am, with regard to my children. I have nephews. So many family members are in the armed forces, some of them literally on the front lines in the most intense part of battles. But this is something we realize we must do, because we are all threatened. And I would say this to you, I would say this through you to your various governments. Israel is going to do whatever it needs to do to protect us, the people of Israel. This is not a war we asked for, but we have no choice, because we are surrounded by enemies who would want nothing more than to destroy Israel and murder every single Jew living within Israel today. I hope you will continue to stand with us. We need your help, we need your support, and we need your prayers. May God bless you.